Okay, this is video 2 of Canal versus Capablanca, played in 1929. White had just played on its 22nd move, e takes f6, winning some material, but black has a positional advantage, and now black plays queen takes d3, rook takes d3. Seems strange that black would you're down material, and generally the strategy is not to exchange queens, but here it's advantageous to black to exchange queens. So queen takes, rook to b1. Basically now this knight is pinned, and white's going to have to make a few moves getting its pieces out. In that time, hopefully black can capitalize. So white plays bishop to b5. Obviously the king's going to move up to g2, and that will free up the knight. But black plays rook on c to b8, doubling the rooks on the file. King to g2, untangling the pieces, and now black plays rook on 8 to b3, forcing the exchange of the rooks. So white plays rook takes b3, rook takes b3. And now what is white to do? Can it defend this pawn on a3? The answer is no. If white tried something like a4, then black plays rook to b4, a5, and then black just plays rook to a4, and the pawn's a goner. So what white decides instead is it's just going to get its knight out. So it plays knight to d2, and then black takes rook. Rook takes a3. Now black actually has two passed pawns. And this pawn on d4 is actually a protected passed pawn. And material is actually even. But the advantage for white is that it has two pieces where black just has a single rook. But black does have the passed pawn, so we'll see who wins. White plays knight to e4, attacking the c5 pawn. a5. Obviously black doesn't want to play rook to a5. It's just going to tie its rook down to defense and probably end up losing the game, so it's going to decide on active play. So a5, knight takes c5, and now black plays g takes f6, not really to win a pawn, or to keep the material even, but basically the king wants to come out, and if black had played king takes f8 right away, then black would have played knight to d7 check, and if the king would have come to e8, then black would have played f takes g7, and that pawn is going to queen. So what black really does is that it just takes the pawn to sort of make sure that it doesn't, the pawn, or neutralizes the effect of the pawn. So black plays g takes f6. White plays king to f1. The king is coming over to the queen's side to help battle the passed pawns. a4. Obviously white's idea is it's going to try to promote the a pawn. King e2, still coming. Obviously now somewhat, well, the d pawn threat is somewhat neutralized here for now. Rook to a1. Clearly the intention is to queen the a pawn. Interesting to note that white will play knight to d3, sort of preventing the pawn from moving, but maybe an option that white could have played was return some material, and maybe knight takes a4, rook takes a4, king to d3, the d pawn's a goner. Maybe the king comes to f8, and then king takes d4. Technically white's behind the material, but white has the passed pawn. It'd be interesting how that game would have turned out, but that isn't what happened. Instead white plays knight to d3, a3, c5. Obviously white has its own passed pawn that it's trying to run home. a2. Now the king comes to f3, because if white doesn't do something like that, then black's just going to play, it's going to play rook to e1 check. the king's going to have to move. If it doesn't capture the rook, then the pawn's just going to promote. So this is a promotion threat. King to f3 to avoid the check from the rook. Rook to d1, threatening the knight, and basically threatening the promote. White can't stop both threats, so it has to take the bishop has to take a2. The rook takes d3. And now technically white is up the exchange. Beforehand, when black gave up the material for the positional advantage, it was white who was up or momentarily was up in exchange, and now it's black who's up in exchange because it was able to convert its positional advantage into some material. And now white plays king to e4, attacking the rook, bringing his king towards the center. Rook to d2, obviously he's still protecting the pawn, attacking the bishop. The bishop comes to c4. The idea here is that it's trying to tempt white to play rook takes f2, where we'll play c6. And now if one continuation could be, something like rook to c2, but the white just plays d5, or if black plays rook to b2, then simply c7 wins. So obviously the black can't take the pawn. Black plays king to f8, bringing the queen over to the queen side. This head off the white's pass pawn. f3, moving the pawn up away from capture, but black now just takes the h pawn. Or maybe we should say that black had a decision to make. Does it try to hold on and promote this d pawn, or does it start looking at other opportunities? And I guess Capablanca thought about it and said, I'm going to jettison that pawn and go for something else. So it takes the h pawn, king takes the d4 pawn, king d7, bishop to d3, obviously with the idea of putting the bishop here and pushing this pawn where it can be safe. It was also that bishop was also attacking the h pawn, so h5. Now the threat is black to play h4, winning. King comes to e3 to coming to the other side of the board, where we'll try to defend against the this pawn. Now the h pawn is the pawn that's threatening. So look at the game before was the a pawn which threatened, and the d pawn was a pass pawn, threatened to win. Now it's the h pawn. So now the king's coming over to back to the king side to defend. Rook to g2, threatening to capture the g pawn. King to white's going to play king to f4, but just to show you, white should not play g4. That's a losing move because of h4. Now the pawn is passed, and how does white can't adequately get over there and defend yet, because how is the king going to get over there? The best try is probably bishop to f1. The rook gets out of the way. I just put it on the C file just because it attacks the pawn. It could probably go to the A or B file. King to d4, protecting the pawn. Rook to f2, attacking the bishop. The bishop goes to h3. Black snaps off the pawn. The bishop tries to come back, or has to move. Rook to g3, and then it's over. That white's going to have to give up the bishop, and that will probably be the game. So that's why can't play g4 in that position. So the king comes to f4. So, and then black will play rook to g1, keeping behind black's pawns. And that's going to do it for this video. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to go to a third video for this one.